Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Well, we're without Chris today. He's taking a personal holiday, and we're fine with that. You got to have some of those now and then. Nice summer day. He can do that.
Yeah, I hope he's getting a little chance to enjoy some things.
We're going to go right to the phones because we've got a caller on the phone right now. We're going to talk to Jerry in Minnesota, and he's got a 2008 Dodge Caravan. How's it going, Jerry?
Not too bad. Actually, I am in South Dakota. I just got an old cell phone number that shows Minnesota, but I'm just in Worthing, a little bit south of you.
All right. Yeah, it's not too far from us. What's going on with the Caravan?
Well, it's got some electrical gremlins. We got some of them fixed, but what happened is there was no blinkers, the windshield wipers came on, and the climate control was not working right. Ended up figuring out it was the compass module shorting out. It was draining the battery down and everything. Unplugged that. Now the wipers work. The blinkers work. I should say the wipers shut off. That was kind of the big challenge. But the climate control still is not working. The fan will come on and everything, but if I push like the defrost to try to switch it to that, the light won't come on. It's blowing on the floor and it won't change from that.
So the Caravans have a kind of a unique system to them. When you power those things up, the AC system needs to be calibrated with the control panel. And sometimes if you've had either a battery go dead or you've had the climate control module out, or in your case, you've had a situation where you've got a module that was kind of whacked out by another module having a short.
Causing problems on the network.
And that probably has made it lose its mind, basically. So calibrating that may fix your problem. Otherwise, you may have further problems either with the body control module or the climate control module itself. It's common for body control modules to fail in those years. They're a little sensitive, especially when they've been subjected to things like that. If you get on YouTube, you'll be able to see a visual indication of how to reset that climate control module. Usually doing it at home consists of things like turn the switch on, move a lever this way, move a lever that way, turn a dial, turn a knob, things like that. And then it gets it into its self-learn mode and it goes through a cool-down test and all sorts of different things to get it going. The older ones were really bad about that, and I think that 08 still has that setup in there. We've done a few of them that we've had to go and reprogram. The other thing you might try is just simply disconnect the battery on that vehicle now that you've taken that compass module out of the system and got that repaired. But just disconnect the battery for about 10 minutes, hook it back up on this particular vehicle, and start it up and see if it fixes itself.
Get things to come back to life again, hopefully. You've probably already done that.
Well, I haven't done the battery thing, but I did look online last night. And what was interesting is this is the 5th generation. The 4th generation Caravans, they had all kinds of stuff on there for how to do just what you were saying.
Oh, yeah.
Push the top button, push the bottom button, hold them in. I couldn't find any information on the 5th generation. So evidently it wasn't quite as common with these.
No, and you're right on the edge of the split there, though. But so in this case, if you're not finding that, and you'd have to do it with a scan tool, then just disconnect the battery on it and hook it back up. But make sure it's disconnected for about 10 minutes first and try it. And that usually puts it into its own self-test mode when you do that.
Hey, Russ, on that one, on the one older Range Rover I've been messing around with for a while and been driving it, but just trying to figure out little things on it. One of the things I saw on YouTube by a British mechanic that was I can't remember what I was looking up, but he had talked about resetting the modules, and in that case, he pulled off the battery terminals and then grounded the two battery cables together. Is that a common practice with a lot of manufacturers? Does it actually do anything? Or
you can do that with anything. It just drains that memory faster. That's why I say either disconnect it for 10 minutes, or you could disconnect it and then connect those cables together. You got to make sure you say that right, because some people want to do the battery and you don't ever do that.
This has nothing to do with the battery.
Cables only.
Yeah.
Disconnected. Oh, yeah. Give that a try. Disconnect them and see what happens.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
You bet. Thank you. All right, we are going to just move right along, and we've got them lined up. So we're going to go to Travis, and I'm going to take this chance that Travis is in Iowa, and Travis has a 2011 Ram 2500. Are we right, Travis?
That is correct.
All right. What do you got going on with the Ram?
A couple things. First thing is I have a fifth wheel camper and then also a car trailer, and I found whenever I am backing them up with the truck, that my truck starts to really climb in temperature. It'll go from the standard 202, 203 degrees to 225, 230 real fast when just doing a simple 30-second to a minute reverse of the trailer. Not sure what's going on there.
We're both looking at each other with
we're lost.
a very puzzled look.
Totally lost on this one.
All right, so I just got to talk you through it and make sure we're thinking the same thing. You are hooked up to your trailer, and you're going to back up with your trailer, and not like you're backing up down the interstate at 60 miles an hour, which would be really good if you could. But you're just simply backing up to negotiate it into a parking spot or whatever you're normally doing when you back up a trailer.
Correct.
And as you do that, your temperature increases quite a bit.
Yes.
If you did the same negotiation at a slow speed forward, it does not do it?
Correct. Yep. Any standard operation of just driving the truck, I only see my coolant getting up to 203, the standard operating, optimum operating condition. And then, whenever I back up my camper or my car trailer, it seems to spike.
And even if the trailer's, it only does it with the trailer connected, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's weird. Well, I would want to know, if I was diagnosing this, the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to connect a regular temperature gauge, like a thermometer, to the engine, or use an infrared scanner, and see if we are actually, overheating, or does it just think it's overheating? One way you could try that, because the vehicle only knows you've got a trailer connected by the plug-in on the back and the bumper, I would say first thing to do before you do anything else, just disconnect the trailer connector at the bumper and then back up and see if your temp gauge goes up. Because I'm wondering if it's really going up or if it's just giving a signal through the system, which is giving a false reading on your temp gauge. Because now if you're just parked in one position and you put it into reverse, will it overheat as well if you're not backing up? Or if you're backing up on just flat ground?
I haven't really messed with that so much. But yeah, just normal. Whenever I just notice it, it's when I have the trailer.
I'll almost bet it's got to be something to do with your circuit being completed. You're plugged in, your trailer brakes are working through that whole thing, and it's giving a false reading to that gauge. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, or there's enough of a draw once that trailer's hooked on, it's affecting a circuit that's causing that to get funky.
That'd be my guess. Unplug the trailer connector and then try to back up and see if it does it. If it doesn't do it, then we know it's in that.
Because there's no practical matter that when you're backing up that should make that truck heat.
No.
Any different than if you went forward at a slow speed. You still have minimal airflow.
Sure.
Your fan is still turning the engine the same way. It's got to be something like that.
All right. Does that help you out?
Sure. Yep. One more thing, quick, if I can.
Oh, go ahead.
So when I bought the truck, that was a few months ago, I didn't notice it, but now just going over slight little bumps, I feel like a small rattle in my steering wheel, and the steering wheel is not loose. So I just don't know if it's in that upper control or in that lower control.
They make
of which
both,
is common for those to start to go.
Both of them. Our partner at DormanProducts.com sells both the upper shaft and the lower shaft. They're both known to do that.
Okay.
Usually you can grab a hold of it with one hand and then move the wheel with the other and try to vibrate it, shake it around, and see which part of it's loose. But definitely they both do that.
That's a two-person operation to check it out. Have one person looking and grabbing and the other person turning, you can start to identify where your weakest link is at.
All right.
All right, perfect. Thanks, guys.
You bet. Well, I guess he's gone. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. No Chris. Not today, but he'll be back next week. We hope he'll be back next week.
Yeah.
He might enjoy vacation so much that he just stays away for a while.
I think he'd rather be here.
Yeah,
he
I'm
likes
sure.
us.
This is his favorite time of the week. That's me saying that, but you know,
He said that too.
he could say that now.
Yeah,
and
he
then.
said that many times. So I'll take him at his face value. That
You
this,
get three friends together in the studio. It's always a great time.
it makes it that much better.
Man, we were talking off air in the news about gas prices and people going out on the 4th of July weekend here and what it's going to cost. And that they don't seem to be changing their thoughts at all about traveling. I'm looking at people out on the road, you are too, and we don't see one bit of slowdown anywhere.
Yesterday, my dad and I were driving just a little bit west of Sioux Falls, and Massachusetts plate. Here we are in South Dakota, California plate. Just plates from all over were on the highway, and the people are still going out and doing what they're doing, but the cost is there, so they're sacrificing somewhere else, or they're dipping into savings further, or they're charging a little bit more and they're going to pay it back over time. But it sure seems like it's not deterring people from taking those trips and taking the summer vacations. They're still, I mean, not everybody, but I mean, there's in our area what we're seeing, people are still going. I know one of our sales reps, I was chatting with him doing his review, and he likes to fish, and he was up at one of the lakes that is very popular for fishing and the campgrounds, and he said everything was chock full and people were lining up for that nice cheap gas at the boat docks where they had the fuel. And you can imagine it's just even a little more expensive when you get there.
Oh, that's crazy. Some of the lakes are like around here. You're getting up in that $6 a gallon,
Yep.
$5.50,
Yep. So
$6.
it's just people continue to do what they want to do, and I think that just is a testament to the freedoms that we love as people. We like, if we've got a certain thing that we like to do, like Ryan, the guy I was dealing with, he loves to fish and he likes to be out on the water, and he's gonna sacrifice somewhere else to make sure he can still do that. And I think it's a lot of people have to do. I look at companies. It's so hard on companies. Our own in particular. In the last month for our small company, we had over $30,000 increase from the previous year on the cost of fuel, and it's just it is amazing when you figure that, and that all has to be worked out through profit and loss. It doesn't just you can't pretend it doesn't exist. It's a real thing, and so our country is going to continue to battle through this. But boy, what a change from a year ago.
Yeah, it sure is. I can't imagine taking the big boat out on the lake anymore. I can remember spending $200 on a weekend with big boats, 2 engines, and that wasn't going all over the place. It was just running on a weekend, and now you're going to more than double that out on the lake with fuel and wow, it's just up there. But like you said, we want to spend the money. I suppose in the summer, if your grass is burning up, if you want a green lawn, you're going to water it, whatever it costs, or otherwise, no.
If they allow you to.
Yeah, if they allow you to. We're running into that too. I was just looking lately. We've flown into the SEMA show several times, and we would look down and say, wow, Lake Mead is really low compared to what it was. Well, now if you would fly over it today, you don't want to use the word that it's completely dried up, but
it's really dropping.
It's like 90% gone. It's down just to the middle of that funnel there in the lake. It's really thin. Their water level is really down.
Supposed to be some rains coming. I hope they get what they need. A lot of it.
I think they need up north is where they need it at Lake Powell. They need that.
And the mountain snows that they didn't get as much.
Well, it's been going on for 20 years, and at some point, though, like other lakes we've had around our part of the country, it'll be like, oh, they're dry, they'll never fill up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're experiencing flooding.
And going back to the fisherman real quick before we take this call, where he goes on some of the lakes, they use old GPS data to search and look for structure, and they can see the roads that used to be there that when we had our heavy rain times, that the roads got covered up. Township roads are covered up by the lakes now. And so they use their old GPS data to find out where those old road beds are at, and they can see them, and they can see the ditch, they can see the road, and that structure is a place where fish are at. But
in Lake Mead, you can see the old structures, lots of boats and lots of barrels with dead bodies buried.
They found a few of them.
They've been pulling them out. It's kind of crazy. We're going to go to Roger in Kansas, who has a 2022 Explorer. He's got some questions about it. Hey, Roger, what's up?
Not nothing, man. Just talking to you.
All right, that's the best way to go. What's up with this Explorer?
There's nothing really up with it. I just got some questions.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
It's that 3.0 400 horse.
Oh,
and
okay.
They told me that at the dealership, they told me if I used ethanol in it, and something happened to my engine, and they pulled a sample of my gas, but that my warranty would be void.
That's very
and
interesting.
Same way with the oil. If the car calls for 100% synthetic, and I want to put the blend in it, that could be another reason to cancel my warranty.
Well, they are right on the oil part. The oil part of that vehicle, they do require specific oils because they have had oil system failures on lots of cars. And the failure is due to lack of oiling and the oil products that are put in there. So in that case, if you had an oil system failure, bad bearings, and they sampled that and said, you don't have the right oil in this vehicle and you damage the bearings, yes, they could. On the other hand, if you're running ethanol in the vehicle, now all cars in the United States, 2001 and up, and this definitely falls in there at a 2022, is certified by the federal EPA to use E15. So there is absolutely zero reason you could not use that. Anything higher than that, we do see people use some higher blends at their own choice, and when they do, they would have to prove that the failure in your vehicle was caused solely by the use of whatever fuel you put in it. It doesn't mean that, kind of like they said, well, you can't drive off-road with it because that'll void the warranty. Well, what is off-road? Is that parking in your grass, or is that out in the Mojave Desert on a race? So, yeah, it's very unlikely. In our own shop, we have never seen a mechanical failure caused by the use of ethanol, or here at our auto recycling center with thousands of cars coming through here a year that came in, and the statement on the insurance form or the intake form said, oh, car was damaged by ethanol. We have to, that's why.
The only fuel-related problems like that we see are misfueling of diesels, or somebody putting a contaminant in the tank, like water or sugar in a vandalism situation or whatever it might happen to be. But that engine that you've got in that, you must have like the sport model Explorer, the real hot dog.
It's the ST.
There you go. Yep. That's the same engine that they borrowed that engine for the Raptor Bronco. I was reading the Motor Trend Car and Driver just both got their hands finally on some Raptor Broncos, and that was pretty crazy that's that same engine that they chose, I believe, to put into there. But that is a highly, highly engineered engine, and it needs highly engineered fluids. That's what as far as the oils, that's what we talk about that a lot. That's how they make those engines perform the way they do, is the tolerances are super tight. The tolerances are off the charts to get that power out of that power plant. So they engineer them like crazy, but they also use the best oils to be able to get that performance and to get the protection that they need for the long term. So I really believe strongly, like Russ said, that the oils are a huge deal. But they'd have a long chase ahead of them trying to prove that fuel thing.
Thanks for the call, Roger. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, it's that time again. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back in a couple minutes on the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivants.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Thanks for listening to the show.
It was awkward.
I'm missing my part without Chris, you know. I can't even remember what I got sitting back here. I can't even remember what I normally say on a day like today.
I think you're doing great. You just got he jumps into that role when he needs to. It's kind of like Superman.
Oh man, we were just talking about getting your car out. We have Chris is not on the air, so we can talk about him and his car.
Bet he's listening.
Maybe.
That was we just did that creepy whisper.
Chris's car blew up this solstice. I mean, it nearly blew up. It was dead, but it was. He's been having a weird thing with the heat going on, and we knew he was having a head gasket issue with that. And of course, it's got a big turbocharger on it. It moves a lot of air, and it gets really hot. And we've put our partner over at Dorman Products got us a turbocharger for it, and we put on this turbo, and the turbo's working great, doing its job. The rest of the car, not so much. So it had a rattle in it. We were just going to tear it out, put some timing chains in it, and freshen it up a bit, and we found the head gasket was out.
Yeah, because he had called us or texted us one weekend and said, hey, I was going for a cruise, I'm coming back into town, and my temperature gauge went sailing. And he was able to get it home pretty quickly, and I actually drove over there and got him with our rollback truck and brought it back to the shop, and I tested it when we were there just to see if it would get hot again, and it did. And when it got hot in a hurry.
Yeah.
And so when you guys tore it apart, that's when we found more.
Found a lot of metal in the pan and stuff like that. So we've got another engine for it. We actually found a certified recycled engine. I mean, we go to car-part.com to search some of those rare things, and we have that same ability here. You know, we did some searching there and located one with I think it's like 50,000 miles on it.
And we did do the Carfax, was just something we talk about. If you're going to buy an engine, and I think this is something I should give this advice more often, because of the number of people that are brokering things and different things out there, I want to make sure you're getting the right information. If I'm selling it, I want to get you the right information. But if you're buying it, you want to make sure you get the right information.
Mm-hmm.
And so ask for the VIN number of the donor vehicle that the part is coming from, like in an engine, for instance, and you can find most of the time Carfax records or shop records electronically that can, once again, just like a used vehicle, prove the case for the miles that are on that engine. And in this case, you found repair records too.
Yeah, we found the maintenance records where the oil had been changed on a regular basis, that it had some other maintenance done to the car. So we felt pretty strongly about it. And then once the engine arrived in our own shop, we were able to look at it and see that it had been well cared for. It was still shiny, almost like new. It was in good shape.
It's a rare little engine. It's that GXP Solstice, and so it's an odd little bugger.
The only thing we had problems with now, some of those parts could be extremely hard to find and are discontinued. So we had to get a different turbo drain tube for it, because there's a first and second design. And, of course, Chris is a first design, and the engine we bought was a second design, and the only two differences is the turbo tube, the size of it. So you can't fit the old one in the block. The block is too small, and you can't really drill it out. I mean, you could, but we'd have to tear it down to drill it out. So we're not doing that. But Jake was able to locate one, and we got that on the way. We should have that tomorrow, I think, and then we'll be able to get this thing back together so Chris will be able to do some summer cruising.
Oh, he'll be excited. That's good. Getting close.
He'll probably have the top up in the air on, though, this with the weather we've been having around here lately. So we're going to go right to the phone, and we're going to talk to Harvey, who has a 2013 Equinox. How's it going, Harvey?
Good. I just bought this, and it's got 37,000 miles on it for my wife to drive. It's real nice. It's an LT. But anyway, It's got that 2.4 motor in it. And GM calls for that Dexos oil.
Uh-huh.
Now, I like Mobile One.
Okay.
Like in using my Corvette. If you use that, would that be a better move? Is that with Mobile One? That's supposed to really be a good oil, right? Full synthetic.
Yep, I would definitely use that.
Or
no, Mobile One. If
that
you
wouldn't.
you're fine. If you read it, you'll probably see that a lot of that will say meets Dexo's specs right on the front of it. And Mobile One is what GM specifies, like in their Corvettes, like it says on your cap in your Corvette.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it would say Dexo's.
I got one. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But it's very important. It's very important that you
doing.
continue on with the superb maintenance on that engine, and
plenty of oil changes.
Yeah, because that's a very important.
It is. It just purrs like kitten. It's pretty. I didn't think I'd ever find one like it. You know. Well, I was actually wanting to get one that had the option of the 3.6 V6, but this one come along and it's so nice that my wife don't need that much horsepower. You know?
How does your wife drive it? What's her routine when she drives? How will this get used?
About 40 miles to work every day.
Perfect. That'll be great for that vehicle. Just because every day every time she drives it, she's gonna get a good heating cycle through it. It's gonna get heated up where fans are gonna kick in. It's gonna get moisture burned out of the system through the EGR, and it should do a good job of keeping that pollution control system, the positive crankcase vent, clean. That's important stuff to watch on that engine.
Another question is, they talk about real certain oil changes to get it done on time. Are you recommending back in the old days, like when we used to do 2,000 miles?
No.
Or go to stick at 3?
3 is what with the Equinox, with as many of those as we've seen fail with an oil system problem, which I think every one we've had come in for an engine in the last 4 years, except for one, which was head gaskets, all the other ones were an oil system failure. So we have no problem recommending very good oil changes. We go 3 months, 3,000 miles on them because they've just had oil system issues.
And the way she's driving that, and if you do make the extra investment in the Mobile One, you could stretch that out just a little bit.
Probably closer to 4,000 if she's driving that many miles on it.
Yeah, because that's going to get expensive for you, and you want to make sure and think of that also. But definitely be in that 3 to 4. Maybe if you're getting a pinch and you're not getting it done right away, to 5, but don't go any more than that. But if you're using that high quality oil, and with the drive cycles that she has, I just think that's such an important thing, because that vehicle, to be a 13 and only have 37,000 miles on it, has probably been subject to some short drive cycles early in its life.
Mm-hmm.
So the way
I think so.
And the way she's going to drive it's going to be beneficial to the long-term health of that vehicle. So very good. It sounds like you found a baby there.
Harvey, stay on the line, and we are going to have producer Doug Mashik over there from Prairie House Productions. A fine man in the booth over there. He's going to get you a hoodie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.
And that hoodie is brought to you by
Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. They're the place to go if you want to get training and learn how to be an automotive technician. We recommend no one else but them. They are a very fine school that has everything you need and is passed on down right from the manufacturer level to get you everything you need. Visit UTI.edu today. We're going to go over to Carl in Michigan and talk to him about a 2004 F250 Ford. What's going on with that F250, Carl?
Well, I'm getting this vibration, and I'm kind of old school about it. I'm 83 years old, so I kind of can feel what's wrong with the vehicle.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure it's in the drivetrain somewhere. But I get to 50 to 55, I'm vibrating. And then again at about, and then again at about 73 to 78.
That definitely
and I'm thinking maybe lost a weight off the drive shaft. It's 4-wheel drive, but I don't use the front.
Do you? What's it do at 100?
Well,
everything smooths out at 100.
It smooths out at 80. I'll tell you the truth. It does smooth out a little bit at 80, but it's still, you can feel it in your butt, the accelerator. And if you got your thumb joint on the steering wheel, you can feel it.
Well, our speed limit's around here 80, so we're used to driving 80, 85 on the interstate. A lot of people do that. So
yeah, well, you're going to get humped at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you're right on the right track, Carl. It sounds like you've got a drive line issue. Tires are usually a little different. Of course, you've already gone through them. You've rotated them, you've balanced them.
Rotated them. I bought 2 new tires for the front.
But you've got that
put those
hanger
on the
bearing.
Back, put those on.
On your drive line, you got a hanger bearing and everything in the back. That if you're driving it in 2-wheel drive, which I assume you are, you've been driving long enough.
Yeah.
Then it would not be the front shaft; it'd be that back shaft, and it sounds like it's probably something's out of balance in there. It could also be that there's a slight bend in the pinion in the rear, and you may have to move that yoke. So a shop would lift this up and on their hoist and run it, and then they would watch that drive shaft and see if there's any bends in it, if anything's moving up and down, and if there is, they would need to replace the yoke or clock it in a different direction to smooth it out, and then probably balance that drive shaft. But they have balance machines at drive shaft shops where they can take care of that.
I've done that before on old Cadillacs.
Yep.
My concern was that if I had a jack stand, as you can run it up and down and adjust for transmission purposes or balancing on your hoist. If I put an indicator on that and put it at different spots on the main drive shaft, maybe I could find where it got damaged, or maybe somebody drove it over a ditch and hit a rock or something sometime.
That's exactly how we find those, Carls. We lift it up on our hoist or block it on jack stands, 2-wheel drive, block the wheels, and we just have the wheels turn at idle speed, and we measure it at different. Use a piece of chalk and hold it steady at different areas and find out where that's at. Idea. And then we can measure it with a dial indicator if we need to. But if we're using a piece of chalk and we see that one area is lower than the other, that's a great indication.
Yeah, I think it's good enough to where I wouldn't need a 2,000 degree indicator or something.
You got a pretty good vibration going, and and then don't discount that rear pinion on those Fords. That can be something that is just pay attention to that before you start hauling if you don't find anything on your drive shaft.
You'd have to pull the peg. Do you think that the pinion itself, that's pretty sturdy.
The pinion shaft itself, we've seen some of those get slightly bent. You're right, it is very sturdy, and it doesn't happen very often, but it can if it gets impacted with something hard enough. So
I was going to say even more on bearing wear.
Yep.
And if they start getting some wear in it, you don't always notice it right away. But one of the first indications can be a vibration that's coming from the back. Yeah. And so you just want to check that pinion for the right torque on the yoke.
That would be on the yoke, okay.
Yeah, just make sure it's torqued correctly. You don't want to over-torque it. There's a very specific spec for that. But just don't discount that.
Yeah, that's about an inch and a quarter or something?
Yeah, don't get so caught up in the drive shaft, though, that you forget to check that. So.
Okay, that's a good idea. So, that is, I don't know what the torque is on that, but it's probably 80 pounds or something.
Well, look it up, because you don't want to over-torque it, because there's a crush sleeve in there, and that's how you set that pinion depth. So when you're replacing one without resetting that, you'll want to torque it specifically.
Very specific.
Too much, it's going to tighten it up and burn out the bearing and the pinion. So.
Oh, well, somebody's probably worked on it before. I know that the bolts that held the rear U-joint together were stripped out, and they were bent, and I had them replaced at the dealership. And so I'm thinking that might be a weak spot, but I'll check it again. But I like that idea of the torque on the pinion, because that makes sense to me.
Well, thanks for calling. Hey, and one last thing is that truck is, an 04 F250 is enough of a Super Duty truck that if you can find if you don't want to fight with this yourself, if you can find a specialty alignment shop that works on semi-trucks, commercial trucks, that sort of thing, they usually will take on pickup trucks too, and a 3/4 ton pickup truck is in essence a small little commercial vehicle. And that's where I oftentimes, Russ over the years has found the true, don't take this wrong if you're working at a tire store, because there's some great people in tire stores, but the guys that are just dyed in the wool on suspension chassis, problems.
Driveline. That's
Driveline
all they do
issues,
all day long.
alignment, because they working on those big trucks and things like that. It just gives a whole different realm to thinking about it instead of just looking at gauges. I mean, they really understand the dynamics of it. So if you're having a hard time finding a fix, that could be a great place to look for. Is a heavy duty alignment shop. All right.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all your help.
You bet. Thanks, Carl.
All right. Bye-bye.
Man, Carl, 82 years young, hanging out under his F250, working on it. I pray I'm in good enough shape when I'm 82 to still get down on the ground and not, have a hard time getting back up. So. And
he was right with it, too. I mean, what we were talking about, he got it. He knew.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back on Under the Hood. Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. I make my radio appointment every week to hear this show. And then I listen to it again in production, and so does producer Doug Mashik. That's one of my favorite rejoins. I think that came to us from, hang on a minute. That came to us from Chuck Poppin in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This is about 15, 20 years ago. He said, you should make a radio appointment to listen to that. And then it was weird how things come to you, because within a few days, we got the same thing from Mike over at Callow Radio. He said, you should make a radio appointment to listen to that show. That was great. Anyways,
they talk about appointment viewing and appointment listening. We're appointment listening and viewing now.
Yeah, exactly, on YouTube. So we want to welcome a new radio station, WSYY, AM 1240, 102.5 FM in Maine. Way up there, they're the mountain in Maine, kind of in the middle of Maine there. Congratulations to us for being blessed with such a great station, and welcome to all the new listeners out there in Maine.
Yeah, I've never been to Maine. I've been as far northeast as Boston, but by all accounts, it's just a beautiful, beautiful area.
It is. I have some family out in that area, little bit further south than that, but in that general area. So, hey, we've got an event coming up here that a lot of people nationally have come to over the years, and it's moved to a new location. It's called Automania. It is a car show that draws people in from all over the area, and its new location has plenty of room. So if you want to get a car there, that'd be the place to go.
Yeah, they've got down in Valley Springs, South Dakota is where they're doing the show. They've moved it this year, and a lot of good people that we know involved in the show. My good friend Bernie has been reminding me about it, and we got him some stuff for the goodie bags for the people that bring their cars in. But it's this Saturday, depending on when you pick up the show here, but it's the 25th of June, and the car showcase, I believe, is open from 11 till 4, but they've got bands playing, and there'll be food available throughout the day and into the evening, and it's going to be just a street party with cars, and the weather's looking good. It looks like a great summer weekend for a car show. We got so much going on in our market right now this weekend. We got the World of Outlaws sprint cars in towns for because of a reschedule. They're going Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night at the famed Houston Speedway, and it culminates Saturday night with a $100,000 to win race, the most lucrative race in our state that they've ever had. They call it the High Bank Nationals with the World of Outlaws sprint cars. And last night we had an event, and we got home a little bit late, and I turned on Dirt Vision and watched the end of the feature race coming right here from Brandon, South Dakota, and Casey Kane just about won. I haven't seen him win for a while in a sprint car, but that was he was out front for a while, but then he got taken down by Spencer Baston, I think is how he says his name. But they're tearing it up down at the racetrack in Brandon, and then just down the road on Saturday, you can come take in Automania, and then we'll go watch the $100,000 to win feature at Houston's on Saturday night. That's definitely, if you're a motorhead and you want to spend a few dollars.
Saturday, June 25th.
Yes, sir.
Check it out. All right, we're going to go to the phone, and we are going to talk to Jim with a 2004 Ford Explorer. How you doing, Jim?
Pretty good.
What's up with that Explorer?
I was wondering if the gas cap is not yellow. And I was told when I bought the car, I bought it in 2008, that I could use ethanol.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in there one time, and the car sat for a little while, and I had trouble starting it. But there's a lot of times when I start the car, if I step on the gas a little bit, I let it out.
Oh.
And, but now that I was reading in the book, and it says it's the age number on the bin has a K. I can use the 85.
Okay.
And it does.
Well, you're right. If you have a vehicle that is flex fuel, you should be able to put anything you want in there. But if you've had a problem with starting anything that's gasoline or ethanol,
not anything,
not diesel, not water, not Coca-Cola.
It's not that flexible.
It's only flexible to a certain amount. But yes, you could run the flex fuel in it. You're going to find that you're going to get your best miles per gallon and best value for dollar per mile with E30 in that vehicle, and that's what we would strongly suggest running in it. And if you're having issues, though, with starting, it sounds like you may have a tune-up type of issue, and that definitely needs to be addressed. Have a mechanic check it, spark plugs and wires, fuel filters, things like that, just to make sure it's running its best condition, because a lot of people will find problems that are pre-existing underlying conditions when they change their fuel to save some money because they already have a problem with their vehicle. And overall, you're going to get your best fuel economy, your mileage, everything in performance if it's running properly before you change any fuels around.
The book said it gets about 30% less mileage
with E85, and that is correct. So if the fuel is cheap enough, we'd like to see some of the gas stations participate a little more and not raise the price so much on E85, because if you do the math, you'll know that some of them are pretty high, and we know that because there's like the gas stations in our area selling that E85 for almost $1 cheaper than in the other markets around. So you won't see that suffering in fuel running E30. In fact, a lot of vehicles will get better mileage on E30 because they're able to take advantage of their full timing curve and fuel curve, because they have that higher octane, but they don't lose the BTU because they still have 70% gasoline. So experiment with it on your own. Try the E15, try the E30, try the E85, and I'd suggest a couple tankfuls of each and do the math with your pen and paper and a calculator and see which one gets you the best miles per gallon. But I'll bet you that E30 is going to get you the best overall and give you the best fuel savings dollar-wise. Does that help you out, Jim?
Yes.
All right.
Will the I haven't tuned that car up at all. It's got about 68,000 miles.
It's definitely time then.
Ford told me to come back at 90,000 on the transmission.
with the years, I would definitely say it's time for a tune-up.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, we're about out of show, aren't we?
Real close. Getting to the end. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, take care. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans. Thanks for listening to Under the Hood.
Shannon Nordstrom, welcome Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up. Boy, that was a rough start.
Now I get it. When Chris says, boy, when you just do that opening differently, you just throw me off. Why can't you be like Shannon and be more consistent? See, so my opening was different, which threw you off.
It threw me off, and that happens, though. We're still rolling here, though. 866-594-4150 on the Under the Hood Show. If you've got car questions or automotive news that you want to ask about, whatever it might happen to be, 866-594-4150. We'd love to talk to you. You can call that number 24 hours a day, and you can also leave a message, and we can call you back during the show, or you can leave a message if you have a question.
All right, well, we'll just get right to the phone then, and we'll talk to Angie with a 2013 Evoke. How you doing, Angie?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. What's how
good?
Do you like
I was
that
trying
Evoke?
to get. I love it, and that's my problem is I don't want to get rid of it, and not that I would feel right about getting rid of it to someone that was going to have squeaky brakes, but I love this car. I was just actually trying to get in my driveway before you could hear the brakes squeak. I need help with them.
Is this a Land Rover or Range Rover Evoke?
You got it. Yes.
That's that smaller model that they have. That's kind of a sharp-looking vehiel. They're
You think that's
when you see those, they're kind of distinguished looking. They got a neat look.
And they're not
Yes.
as junky as the Freelanders. those were problems.
Yeah, we had
And
some.
they finally straightened them out with the Evoke with that new design there.
Yeah. So what's going on?
Yeah,
with
it's a
your-
super sharp car.
Yeah, what's going on with your brakes?
Okay, so between anywhere from 0 to 10 miles per hour, they squeak, and I mean you can hear me from blocks away.
Mm.
And it's they've been replaced, of course. I mean, we have thrown everything we've got at this thing. It was, after they have taken the asbestos out of the ones that came in them. So now the replacement ones, I mean, we've used higher grades of aftermarket pads. We've replaced the pads, we've replaced the rotors, and also made surface cuts on the rotors just like to toughen, and cleaned the mounting surfaces. We've applied anti-squeak gel to all the contact surfaces. We've just got nowhere else to go.
Well,
So I'm hoping you can tell me another route.
Yeah, they shouldn't make noise, but we have seen some of those make some noise.
Just don't stop. Just concentrate on going forward all the time.
Yeah, full speed ahead. That's the way
And they don't squeak when you just slam on the brakes. It makes people pretty uncomfortable when you're speed up to head to a stop sign, and then slam on them.
They think you're not going to stop. I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly.
Well, that's the light braking, and when you get performance braking systems, it is pretty common for them to squeak, and we've seen a lot of those vehicles do this. My Camaro will squeak now and then. I want my pads to last longer, so I am going with the high-end ceramic ones, and it squeaks, and it really depends on the weather outside, the humidity and things like that, of how bad they squeak, and I suppose that if it's really hot, maybe I don't notice it because the windows are up and the air conditioning's on.
Could be.
Maybe that's it.
Go down an alley once. That's what we always tell people: is just drive down an alley with your windows down, and you'll hear any noise your car is making.
You're next to a building. One way around that, a lot of people will go to the cheapest brake pad they can find, which is the organic pad. No metallic in it, no ceramic, just a basic organic pad. And a lot of times that will take care of the problem. And it's the cheapest pad on the market.
Okay.
The problem, though, with a Range Rover is finding someone who makes a cheap pad for it. You may have to do some searching through many different sources to try to find an organic pad for this model vehicle. I know, like for the Camaro, it's pretty hard. You can't find it really at any auto parts store. They actually have to go to Amazon to find an organic pad for it, but they can be found. They're out there because a lot of other countries will use those type of things in these models. Europe is known for that,
Because that's the only thing we haven't tried is the organic pad. And that's the first time we replaced, we did it with our the best pads we have. And then somebody said, oh, that's like for taxis and stuff, like hardcore. Okay, so then let's go with the step down, and no matter what we do, it does not, it just doesn't seem to help anything. So the organic pads, you think, are the way to go then?
See, they wear out much faster, but it may not wear for you in very quickly. But it just depends how many miles you're putting on it with your brakes on, because that'll make a difference. But if you've ever been to a big city, you get out of the airport, and what do you hear? The bus is going squeaking. They've got super high-end, heavy-duty pads. They don't want them to wear out quick, so they put these heavy metallic pads on them, sometimes ceramic pads, and they can make noise. Typically, most vehicles with a ceramic pad, the noise will be gone. With a quiet type, whatever line you're carrying that says it's a quiet type brake pad.
Okay.
Different stores out there. I think you're familiar with the Napa stores. You've worked with them, so
absolutely,
they have a great brake pad, especially the ones there in Nebraska. You get out that Ainsworth area, they have really great. Great stores there. But, those pads will work for 99% of the cars on the road. But once you're getting up into this or in a Camaro with the high-end braking on it, I'm thinking you're going to need, I think you're going to have to go find an organic pad for it.
Okay, well, I really appreciate the advice on this. Thank you so much, guys.
You bet. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
You bet. All right. Well,
some energy in that call. That's all right.
Oh, I love those listeners. Yeah, Angie actually works with one of our radio stations out there in Nebraska and a Napa store there. So they've been around for a very long time. They're the Napa store there is a local sponsor of the Under the Hood Show. Has been for it's going on 2 decades now. So we really appreciate that. So we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back on the Under the Hood Show. Take care.
Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans, along with Shannon Nordstrom. Call us at 866-594-4150 anytime, 24 hours a day, and we will get you on the air. We'll call you back if it's not the time.
We'll make it work.
Normally do
we'll
the
make
show.
it. We'll make an appointment.
We're gonna make it work, just like Paul, who called us from Missouri with a 1995 Ford F150. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How's it going your way?
It is great. It's warming up. It's turning out to be a beautiful summer. It went from basically a hurricane in May to sweltering heat that was like Texas melting your face off heat to winter again, and now back to dry and hot. So it's just
nice summer day.
Yeah, it's perfect for this part of the country. You're not too far away in Missouri.
Yeah.
What's going on with your 95 F150 Ford?
Oh, I took it on a little trip here a week or so ago, and it'd be just running by, and all of a sudden the check engine light would come on, and it would hesitate, and then all of a sudden, boy, it would go again, just like nothing. It acts like something was trying to plug it up, but it hasn't. I took it on a couple of little short spurts around here, and it's done nothing again. So I'm just curious, man, if I got the sensor was acting up or what.
Yeah, it could be. Which engine do you have in the F-150?
5.0.
Okay, with the 5.0, they have a manifold air pressure sensor, which is back in the rear of the engine compartment on the passenger side above your air conditioning box. Those map sensors, manifold air pressure sensors, they had a few of them that had some issues with them. Now, either the vacuum line could be cracked going to it and collapsed with age, which will cause an issue, or the sensor itself could be failing. It's getting old. Mm-hmm. It's a 95. I mean, we're getting up there.
Yeah.
You're getting close to 30 years. So it's one of those things where we've replaced a few as a tune-up item. If we were doing some other major stuff like plugs, wires, cap, rotor, coil, fuel system cleaning, and wanted to do a complete tune-up, a lot of times we'd throw a map sensor on just because we knew they were problematic, and we sure didn't want somebody to go out and drive a car after we'd spent all this money getting it tuned up perfectly and then have them say, hey, it's running weird. It's got a weird idle and stuff. And anytime somebody says, I got a weird idle in one of these, we look at those. So that might be something to look at for the type of issue you're having, and also replace that fuel filter under the driver's side of the cab there. Really important in those. They start, as you get some age on them, they start clogging up and start doing some weird stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it's been, my regular mechanic died here about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's the last it's had, major looking at. I had a guy put a set of plug wires on it. Since then, that's it. So, but, I know when it gets set out in the sun where it's hot, and you get in it, sometimes you got to hold the throttle about halfway down to get it to start.
If you're doing that, it could also have a problem with the fuel pressure regulator leaking. They were pretty common to leak on those. It's located on the fuel rail there. Look for that chrome fuel rail, and there's going to be only one vacuum line. Usually got a red line to it, but it's the only vacuum line on the entire fuel rail on that manifold. Unplug that and see if it's wet in there. If there's gas in there, it smells like gas in there, it's definitely leaking, and you should replace it. They're pretty cheap. You can replace them. You could do it yourself. but you got to make sure you have the key off and you depressurize that fuel system using that Schrader valve on there and a rag to keep it from spraying anywhere. But you can do that yourself. It's not too bad. But a couple things that you can check out.
Okay. Well, that gives me an idea.
All right.
All righty. I do appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.
Well, and like anytime you have a check engine light come on, and when it comes on, it's associated with the vehicle changing its performance and how it runs. To me, that's a more urgent indication that you need to get that checked sooner. Because you can have check engine lights come on for a number of reasons, and we talk about them layering and masking other check engine lights. If you don't get them fixed, if you know what it is, you may not find a more important indication would come on. But anytime you have a check engine light come on and it's either flashing, which means that you're misfiring severely, and or it is accompanied with a change in performance, that's a pretty urgent call to go find out what's going on.
For sure. We're going to go back to the phones, and we're going to talk to Bob with a 2000 Dodge Dart. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
The wife's 2000 Dart, when it started up, it would vibrate real bad, and I thought, well, it might be a motor mount. I did the checks like we used to do in the old V6s or straight 6s and V8s and stuff, put it in reverse and see it rock pretty good. You'd know which side and everything. But I was unable to, I didn't think that was it because on the transaxle, I guess I don't know how to check that. So I did have the wife contact your guys' shop and take it in there, and I just wanted to thank you for getting her fixed up.
Oh man, you're welcome. So I was just telling Shannon, hey, I got this one nailed. We got a 2000 Dodge Dart in our shop right now that looks like brand new, and it's got a bad front motor mount on it.
It is the Dart,
and there's no way to tell putting it in reverse or front. There you go. So yeah, you fire that thing up, and it just kind of goes clunk, 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 like something's banging on the bottom of the car. Well, what's happening is the front motor mount is collapsing. Of course, there could be other mount issues on that too, but that thing we can see the metal on the metal, and there's actually some filings around it where it's rubbing together. So it's collapsed, and it's vibrating on itself. The new one is only has about an 1/8 gap in there, but this one has no gap. So it's banging around on there.
It's not a big difference, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and when it's cold, you hear it more when it's cold than it's warm because the engine has a high idle when it's cold, and it's vibrating around. And then when the idle kicks down, it stops vibrating unless you give it a little throttle. So yeah, if you've got those, there's really no way to test it. The only way you can test to find out if that mount is bad is to get yourself a wood board and put it on top of a floor jack, and while it's making the noise, slightly lift up on the oil pan and see if the noise goes away. But you got to take the splash shield off the bottom in order to do that.
It's been a really sweet car for her. It was the first series that came out. She actually bought it in 2012, and running down the highway, it gets 40 miles to the gallon. It has a 2.0 tire shark in it, and it's never been in the shop other than for tires and oil changes,
and
which she does every 5,000 miles.
That surprised me because this is a beautiful car. I mean, I was working on it myself, and it looks like brand new. And for you to say that you haven't had any repairs done is
rare.
Kind of shocking and rare because we see so many failures in engines and transmissions and I mean, just electrical things. It's like they fail left and right. And I wonder if some of that has to do with the way the car's been driven and taken care of. Because of all the other ones that fail, they look like garbage. I mean, they've really been beat when they come in. Things falling apart. But this one, I mean, a few, little tiny spots here and there. But otherwise, it looks like brand new. It's a nice car. So, yeah, I think you'll enjoy this one.
There's 100,000 miles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was right at 100, so I think you'll really enjoy this one for a while. Keep doing whatever you're doing to it. All right. Thanks, Bob.
Very good. Thank you for your time and help.
You bet. Hey, you know what? I think we're going to keep you on the line here for producer Doug and get you a hoodie.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. We got another call right up. We're going to talk to Ken, who has Ken has a 95 T-Bird. We're getting back into the oldies but goodies here. How you doing, Ken?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good. Yeah, thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome.
Okay, my issue that I got is with air conditioning. And this car only has like 30,000 miles on it. I very rarely ever drive it. But anyway, I traced it down to low freon sensor on that dryer.
Yep.
And it's adjustable, that sensor is.
Yes.
And I backed way out till I had continuity on there, and it turns on the fan okay, but it doesn't turn on the compressor. Well, I took them. My next step was I took a shunt and to bypass that sensor, and then everything came on. Compressor, everything's working perfect. So I don't know that. I don't want to run without that low freon sensor on there, but
no, you'll want to
wonder what.
You'll definitely want to replace it if it's failing. Hopefully you can find one. If you can't find one for your exact car, a lot of times we will get another one from a similar model, similar refrigeration system, the same number of terminals, but you got to make sure they all got to look at the wiring diagram and everything to make sure you're connecting them correctly. We just had a 95 T-Bird in our shop. We did some work onto the AC, and thankfully that switch was good because there are a lot of components in that system that are not available right now. You've got to start searching for them. A lot of times it's a local U-Pull-It yard or something, because some of those electrical switches. Car-part.com is a great resource to find parts, but you've got to find a car they have, call that vendor directly and then say, hey, this is the part I'm looking for, because that's not something that's ever going to be inventoried as an AC switch. But when you get to the point where you can't find one, other than Ford Classic Parts, they have an actual classic parts system where they can find some of that stuff. It can be really hard to find, but if you're backing that screw out and it's kicking the fans on, that's one of the steps. And then you jump it and it gives you a compressor and everything, and it blows cold like it's supposed to, and everything operates correctly, then it sounds like your switch has failed.
Okay, great. I don't still want to throw parts at it, and
right. Well, you've done the shunt test. That's a pretty good one right there.
Okay, good deal. All right, well, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Phil.
Ken.
Appreciate your help.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Well, we are in the heat, no pun intended, of AC system. I mean, we just get bombarded with stuff, and some of them are pretty straightforward, Shannon. We just do a recharge on them, and they're good for another season or two or three. Other ones are complete failures, and you've got to tear the whole thing down and go through it. There's metal in the system. They're horrible. So people at home will just say, well, I just need a compressor. And what do? They call you.
Yep.
And then when they call you, they buy a compressor. They put it on themselves. They go get a kit like from our partner at AC Avalanche, and that's a whole different setup. They're made to top off a system that's a little low and get you going again. But they're not made to where if you take a compressor off and just throw another one on to fully charge a system, you've got to get the air out of there and the moisture and vacuum it down. And there's a lot more to it than just to a complete system repair than just throwing on a compressor. And then they come back to us and say, your compressor didn't work.
So we get a lot of warranty claims that way caused by improper installation, for sure.
So any compressor, new or used, if it leaves the door of that vendor and the clutch on the front is still black or silver and nice shape and it's all together, if it comes back to that vendor and it's black and blue and purple and red, it means that compressor was overloaded so much that it slipped that clutch and caused it to burn up. So, we know that something was done wrong at that point. So be careful when you're doing your AC repairs that you just follow the directions. YouTube is a great resource if you don't know what you're doing. And then if it still scares you, then move on to a professional. They can help you out in the world. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. Under the Hood and our hoodie giveaways are brought to you by Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. We want you to know everything there is to know if you're going to be an automotive technician, because people like me, we don't want dumb technicians. We want smart technicians, and we want them trained. We want them to know what they're doing. So visit UTI.edu today to find out how you can be the best in your field. We've got a stack of calls. We're going to go right back, and we are going to let's talk to Bart with a 2016 Ford Fusion. How you doing, Bart?
Well, pretty good. Thanks for taking the call.
You're very welcome. How's that Fusion doing?
Well, it's okay. We've had it has the key fob with a push button start, and that we don't like, but it is what it is. I've had a couple of times at night when it's parked in the garage. I come out in the morning, and all the windows are down, and the moonroof is open. And I don't even know how that's the question. How does that occur?
So the body control module on that has control of the windows and the door locks, all the electronics in that car, and it does have the ability to run those up and down and open and close that moonroof. So a lot of these cars from the factory, a lot of people don't know it, but if you take your key and you put it in the driver's door and you turn it to if you have all your windows down and your sunroof open, turn it to the lock position and hold it there. Don't just turn it to lock, but hold it there. Most people don't even use a key in the door. If you hold it in that position, after a couple seconds, all the windows will roll up and your sunroof will close. In the same turn, you can turn it to the right, to the unlock position, and roll down all the windows. And some of them will allow you to roll down the windows and open the sunroof. And it's in case you go out to the car and it was 98 degrees, it's super hot. You know it's going to be 1,000 degrees when you get in that car. You want to open up the windows and cool it off a little bit before you get in. Well, just hold the key to that position. So on the key fob, do you hold the unlock? Is that what you're saying? Well, no, this is with the key itself.
You have to use the blade, in this case.
Use the key that goes in the door.
Do all vehicles do that, Russ? Or
Not all of them. Most of the European ones do that, and they have for decades. But a lot of the American cars now with those type of controllers in them have also, the Malibus and things will do that. Some of the Chevy trucks will do that as well. And if I remember right, there is a sequence that if you push it just right on the remote, you can get the same thing to happen, but they don't want you to accidentally put your windows down and open the sunroof if it's raining, so it's not easy to access. I can't remember exactly what you got to do on the cars, and we've had listeners talk about it before on theirs, where you push the lock and then the unlock twice and hold it down, and then you can get it to go. You're not going to accidentally do that with it.
But if he's coming to this car with the windows down and the sunroof open and he didn't
it's not a remote
that.
thing. I think he's got an issue going on with either the switch in the door, in the driver's door, or he has an issue with the body control module. It's going to be so hard to find, though, because that's going to be an intermittent thing. They're not going to it's not going to be sitting in the shop while they've got a scanner hooked to it, waiting for the windows to go down.
Very intermittent.
Yeah.
If Russ, so what he should do then, and we don't know for sure that this vehicle has that feature, he should test it and see if it does have that feature.
Yeah, try the door thing first, but then the other thing you might want to do, when you have it in your garage at night, are the doors locked?
No.
Lock the doors and see if that stops, because I believe that if it's in the lock position, it overrides that feature and will not allow those windows to go down until it's unlocked.
The thing with this one, the key fob has a key folded away inside it.
Exactly.
But you gotta, and I don't have the car here right now, but you have to take something off to even get the key into the door.
Yeah, they've usually got a little access cover that the key blade itself can help you take it off.
Yep.
If you look at the owner's manual, it'll show you you can push up from the bottom side usually and pop that cover off and access the actual lock.
I would say just try locking the doors first with it in the garage and see if that problem goes away. If it does, talk to Ford about a service bulletin about these windows going down and see if they can help you out with that. But I bet you're going to have a problem with that door switch.
Yeah. It's only happened a couple of times, and I called the service guy at the local Ford dealer, and they didn't know. They said it's possible, but they didn't give any indication
Try locking it.
What was behind that, like you guys are talking about.
We've seen
and
it
I
before.
wasn't aware of that.
So just do the cheap way. Do the Chris Carter
Okay.
repair. Just lock the doors and see if that takes care of your problem. Keep them locked for the next couple months, and if it doesn't ever happen, then you know that's taking care of your issue.
Well, and then there's a good chance that maybe replacing that driver's door latch or
Might fix it,
might
yeah.
fix the problem. But that's a total. You're just throwing it. You're swinging at pitches at that point.
All right. Thanks, Bart.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
You
Take
bet.
care.
Take care.
Bye.
Oh man, those weird gremlins always, they're hard to figure out sometimes. We're gonna move on to James in Oregon with a 2000 Ford F250. How you doing, James?
Good. It's a F350 with a 7.3 turbo diesel. We ordered two of them. Yeah, we ordered two of them from the factory, and we still have both of them. I never figured I'd be driving a 22-year-old truck. But I guess it'll last till I'm in a nursing home. But anyway, yesterday I went to start it. I was going to take a little hay out in the field, and what it did is I turned it on, and it heated up the glow plugs and everything, and was ready to go. And then all of a sudden, everything just kind of went black, and it's making a thumping noise. And normally I replace the batteries. I always buy 6-year good name brand batteries, and I replace them at 4 and just use them up in a farm tractor and a big old Chev C60 hay truck. And but anyway, I'm kind of thinking it's just dead batteries, and it's just kind of a weird phenomenon.
So
it's still getting good mileage and everything, and it's always got about 500 to 1,000 pounds of tools and crap in the back, you know.
So yeah, they're good work trucks for sure, and that 7.3 is just an awesome engine.
Workhorse.
People still they look for those and try to buy them. That's why they're worth so much now, and it's definitely worth hanging on to or buying one if you're looking to purchase one. So I think you're right. I think you're on the right track. I think you either had a battery or two that have sulfation built up in the bottom of them, and then what's happened is when it moved, it just made contact with the plate and just sucked the life out of the battery, so they're just dead. Or you get a crack in a plate. A lot of this stuff, if you go to our partners at autobatteries.com, they have lots of videos and advice about batteries. Pretty much anything you could ever dream of on a battery, they can tell you about, from things with no starting issues by the way of no cranking to jump starting and things like that. And one of the things that they talk about is the battery terminals. So many people buy new batteries, they'll put them in, but they don't look at the terminals closely. And not only the inside part, which makes contact over your top post on your battery, needs to be completely clean when you bolt the new battery in, but look a little further under the rubber on the end of the battery terminal, right where the battery terminal is kind of molded into the terminal, the wire into the terminal. If it's starting to corrode under there and you can't really see it from the outside, but if you peel that back just a hair and you see it, that end needs to either be cut off and have a new end put on, or it needs to be replaced, because that corrosion can build up in there. And what happens is you go to start the vehicle, and all of a sudden you turn the lights on and it's good, but as soon as you hit it to crank and it needs more amps, it's just dead. And then if you let it sit a while, sometimes it'll pop back, and all of a sudden, hey, it's working again, and it kind of welds itself back, and it works for a while, and then it's gone again. So terminals very important on the big Power Strokes and those.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to do its 50th oil change. It just came up on 250,000 miles, and last week I had I'm beginning to think, boy, I'm never going to buy another American truck, because last week I had a license plate light go out. Boy, what a lemon I've got, huh?
Oh no, not a license plate light.
Well, get that fixed.
I still got one.
Get that fixed so you don't get pulled over for no reason.
Yeah, you don't want the cops pulling you over for some trivial thing.
I still got one license plate light. I'll have to get another bulb. But anyway, I'll give those guys a call then. That I wrote down on a different time when I was listening to your show. I wrote down their website, so I'll give them a call or
autobatteries.com. Check them out.
Yep, check out that website.
Yep.
Tons of resources.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, I have a question. Right at the end of the show, you always say, remember ETMF or whatever. What is that?
That's
What does that mean?
ETMF is electromagnetic interference, but you're thinking of PTLA.
Yeah, it's PTLA, which is praise the Lord always. It's just something that our family has attached to all of our things that we've done over the years, and it's just reminding people that good times, bad times, we've got to give glory to the one that created it all. So that's what it's all about.
Yep. Well, that tells me that I'm talking to some really good folks, and anyway, I'll get right on this battery deal because I don't like anything when it's sitting around not running.
There you go.
Take care, James.
I'll have to buy 2 new batteries, one for the farm tractor and one for that C60. Because what I do is when these get 4 years on them, I always buy the 6-year battery. When they got 4 on them, I replace them, and I always just cycle the batteries through those other 2 rigs on the farm.
It's a good idea.
Sounds good.
Yep. And then after that, then they get traded in. But, I've always got 2 of them in the barn that I got to trade in anyway. So
you got a system. That's what you need. Russ. So that's awesome, having a system. Well, thank you for being a hoodie.
Take care.
Okay, thank you, Russ and Shannon. Have a great day.
You too. All right, we're going to go right over to Jeff with a 95 town car. Jeff.
92.
Oh, a 92. How's your
92.
How is the 92 town car?
It is a dreamboat. I love it. I'm restoring it to its original condition. It's had 2 owners. Original owners was a wife of a dealer in Gaylord, Minnesota. For some reason, the husband who owned the dealership, I don't know what kind of dealership it was, did not like the town car and did not like his wife owning it. He sold it to a gentleman who lived in Gaylord. I live in Janesville. And when my S10, 2000 S10 started giving me way too many problems to fix after fixing quite a few, she said, well, my cousin died. I'm the executive of his estate, and he's got a 92 Lincoln Town Car. It's a big old boat, but I'll sell it to you for $300. It was his pride and joy. And the woman who owned it before him was the wife of this dealer. And it was stored in a garage, and I went up and got it. The guy weighed 350 pounds. He broke the front driver's seat, a bar that goes across the front of the seat to the floor. He ripped the bolts right out of the thing. So it was like a rocking chair. When I drove it home, I had to sit on the front of the seat. But that's something I can deal with. I listened to your show last week, and it was so amazing because like 3 or 4 things that you were just happened to be talking about to a couple of gentlemen were the exact things that I had questions for once I started listening to your program. I've got them written down. I'm standing looking under the hood in the shade of my backyard. So I guess I will start with the crankshaft pulley went bad. I went to O'Reilly's. They had the right belt, 6 ridges, 7 grooves, and they only had 2 choices for crankshaft pulleys, and it said to look at the door post, depending on the production date. I did that. It said 0292. And it also said online that, and Riley said, if it's produced after 6/21/92, it's this choice. If it's produced before 6/21/92, it's the other choice. They only had the 2 choices.
Right.
Neither one of them had the same number of grooves and ridges. So to make a long story short, the gentleman across the street ordered the first one. It was wrong. It was for F150. I don't know how he got confused. He ordered the second one, and it had too many grooves and ridges, and he said it doesn't matter. As long as it's wider instead of narrower and you line it up properly, it'll work just fine.
Correct.
I called O'Reilly's. They said that was true. I put it in. It's working like a charm.
Yep, that's correct.
Now,
we see that a lot.
I also listened to your program. You said something about a ground strap.
Yes.
And to check that, I checked my ground strap after my mechanic buddy in Eagle Lake helped me put the pulley back together and everything. And sure enough, the top part where it connects underneath the firewall by your windshield wipers was hanging down, corroded. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, it's my next project. The air conditioner blows cold for about a minute to maybe a minute and a half. Then it starts blowing warm. And I didn't quite catch, I did catch the fact that you said sometimes in the winter, they can suck some air in there.
Yep.
You have to bleed them. It sounded like I could probably go to YouTube or somewhere and find out the proper procedure to do that. And then you also mentioned that something about the back behind the compressor the line kind of curves down or something and can it's in a spot where it can pick up some moisture or something, and that could be a good spot to check to see if that's leaking or has built up moisture. I didn't quite get it all written.
Sure. Well, that part there was just looking at lines in general, and if you see oily residue around any of the connections on the lines, that indicates that there's a leak there, and a lot of times we'll see that build up over the winter, indicating that there is definitely a strong possibility of a leak going on because refrigerant oil is coming out. Now, with the 92, that's going to be R12 refrigerant, so you're not going to be able to buy that refrigerant or even buy refrigerant like from our partner at AC Avalanche in a can to top it off. You're actually going to have to take that in to a shop that can still buy the R12 because you have to have a license to purchase that. And
buyer still has.
Right, and they will evacuate it and check for leaks, repair those leaks, and then recharge it. But it's probably, like you said, I would think it's probably a little bit low, probably has a little bit of air in it. And if they would evacuate it and replace those O-rings or the hoses that are bad and then recharge it, since you know it does blow cold when it kicks in, it'd probably...
It blows cold next for a year and a half, yeah.
Yep, then it would probably fix up that problem.
All right, now, cruise control.
Yep.
You also talked about this gentleman last week. And I don't know if this is connected with it or not, but you mentioned a wire hanging down by the brake pedal. And you said there shouldn't be a wire hanging down. They don't put wires in there to hang down anywhere. It's a fairly small wire. It's got a little blue clip that looks like it's a little, clip, push-in clip that goes to something. I have not gotten under there to look up to see where it may go. And for some reason, it seemed to me that he said it might have something to do with your cruise control. Maybe I'm mistaken, but my cruise control was working.
The town car... Yeah, that town car does have a test wire down there. I believe it was for the ABS, if I remember right. And that's always supposed to be hanging down there. I think that was that blue wire on those. We used to do those at the dealer all the time. But
Yep, it's got a blue clip on it, and I believe the wire is blue, yes.
To fix the cruise on this town car, you're gonna need a tech that's got an old tester that we haven't even had around for over a decade. And it plugs into the cruise module, and it tells us what all the switch positions are, so it lets us know what part of the system's failed. But yeah, you're going to have to find a tech that's still got one of those.
Well, I've got a tech that just retired. He worked for my father at the new Napa location in Mankato, which was a Chrysler Plymouth dealership when I was 18 years old. And he just retired and moved to Colorado, and this guy had every tester and everything. I think I'll start with him, and maybe he can refer me.
All right.
Like I used to in the old days when I worked for a contractor and was looking for a special part for something. And you ask one guy, well, do you have any suggestions? And pretty soon, I'd make one cold call, and by the time I was done, I just kept getting referred to another number. Pretty soon I found the guy that I needed.
Well,
hey, Jeff, thanks for the call. Thanks for the call today. We got to roll to another caller, but always remember, for anybody out there, you can pick up and re-listen to episodes on podcast and YouTube. If there's something that you heard us talking about and you want to hear it again, you can always play it back when you need to. And we really appreciate you being a hoodie. You got a lot of good information and very thorough. Thanks for calling the show.
Hang on the line there for a second. Hang on the line for a second, Jeff.
Thank you so much. I'll hang on.
You bet. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back in just a second.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm one of your hosts, Russ Evans, along with another one of your hosts, Shannon Nordstrom. And for the ailing Chris Carter, we're both doing our best to fill his shoes. See, it takes two of us to fill just one shoe of Chris. That's pretty hard, but we're going to get right to the phones because we're going to run out of time if we don't. Frank, tell us about your F250.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet.
I got a gas 5.4 liter, and it started having a fuel filler problem.
Yes.
Seems pretty common. Lots of people have it. The internet says check the vent solenoid for the canister.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. Won't fill. So, just coincidentally, after it started having that problem, the code for the vent canister solenoid out of line came on, replaced it. Great. Code went away while I had it out. Took the canister apart, just charcoal, nothing clogged, low pressure through the air compressor, blew right through it, hooked it back up, still kicking back. Nothing kinked that I can find, and it does fill just fine when I open the purge valve under the hood.
Okay.
So the vapor vent on top of the tank must be fine because it's getting out that way. Is the canister just clogged and I'm...
It sounds, it sounds like your canister's clogged. You know, you could, if you watch YouTube, you'll be able to see exactly, you know, on a video how it works, but they'll run you through some tests with opening that valve with 12 volts to open the solenoid and then seeing if air flows by blowing through one end of the tube, and then with it closed.
Well, I've done that.
Yeah, and
it did take air, but apparently not enough to fill the tank.
It may just not be enough. If it's partially restricted, even 30%, it'll still kick fuel back. So since you're not getting a code anymore, it's probably flowing some, but probably not enough. So, yeah, most of us.
And where does it clog? Can I clean it out?
No.
Or do I have to buy a new one?
You got to put a new one on. We do a lot of these in our shop, and most of the time we just end up replacing the canister. It's really super common on those trucks.
Yeah, because I pulled the canister apart, and the filters were fine. The charcoal seemed clean. I couldn't find any clogs. But
all right. Well, good luck with it.
So while I've got you, I really appreciate the show you do. And the only other question is, other than frequent oil changes on this pod.
Hey,
sure.
Frank, hang on just a second. We're up against a break. All right. Well, that's it for the local, and we're back to the after show. All right. So, Frank, you had another question on your F250.
I was just thinking the 5.4 liter maintenance, very common engine. Hear you guys talk about it all the time. It's a 3-valve, and it's 08, so I think it's before the cam phaser problems.
No.
Other than regular oil changes, no. Just get those spark plugs out of there as soon as I can. And,
yes.
And all right, it's only got 60,000 miles on it, so and it runs beautifully.
That
just looking for maintenance advice.
That 3-valve that's in the 3/4 ton, Russ. When we look them up, a lot of them have a different interchange. Was that an early motor that didn't have the phasers in it?
No, that's got phasers in it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep. He's just lucky he hasn't had a problem with it yet. He's changing his oil enough and running it long enough, getting it hot enough that it's not had any wear in the upper end there.
Yeah, the trips that we do talk about driving patterns. What's the trips that this truck gets to take on a regular basis?
Unfortunately, I'd say 50% short trips, 50% highway. So it does not get run real hot. I mean, I know that you guys talk about it all the time. I know that hot cycle, keep the moisture out, change oil regularly. So I do attempt to do that.
Yeah, even if it's once a week, I mean, is a big deal just to get it out and about.
Yeah.
Once every 2 weeks. But yeah, we definitely recommend especially the truck, depending on how you're using it. If you're telling us you're doing short trips, you got to step up that oil change interval, and you definitely want to be in that 3,000 to 4,000 mile range on those intervals with that oil, because it's so crucial on that engine. It's just extremely crucial to keep that oil well lubricated, to keep those chains so that they can get good deflection off the oil off the chains, and good clinging of the chains actually for the oil just to stick to them. When you read some of the articles, that's just the methodology of how that oil has to work through the system of the phasers and the chains and the tiny passages that have to go through to make everything work the way it's engineered. You got to keep those highly engineered fluids fresh. It's very important.
For sure.
And no oil system cleaner like you guys always talk about for different vehicles. Is that so?
That would
run one of those through before changing the oil.
Yes, that would definitely not hurt anything at this age on this vehicle and miles and time. Definitely run that through there. Keep it clean. That does wonders to keep that oil system clean in those things.
All right, and then because I just use standard oil in it. I don't think I run a synthetic. I just run a 1030. I don't remember what the weight is actually. I think it's a 530 standard non-synthetic. But
Right, 530 or 520 in that, depending on a lot of them are 520. But yeah, you can run a synthetic blend, fully synthetic, whatever you want, just as long as you're getting it. The main thing is getting it changed on time.
And having the correct API service grade oil in there. You know, if you're using a standard oil, just make sure it meets or exceeds whatever that current spec is that the manufacturer's recommending when you go into a maintenance system. Like at our shop, they can go into their maintenance system on their Snap-on system, and it'll tell them, hey, here's what the current spec is that you're supposed to be running. Because they have changed it over the years when different oil specs become available. So just make sure you're doing that, and you should be good to go.
And I believe these are I'm not the original owner of the truck, but I'm only the second owner, and I believe these are the original spark plugs. Any tricks to getting them out other than
If they don't break off, say a prayer that they're good. But if they do break off, they do make a repair kit in order to extract those out of there, which we have to use often. But they might still come out.
Get the thing hot and put some lubricant on it, or
use PB blaster down in those holes. And let it soak overnight or 2 or 3 days if you have any issue. And then if they start to move and they stop, put some PB blaster down in there, tighten them back up again, and then work them back and forth very slowly, and they'll eventually come loose. If you can get them to move.
That's the summer plan.
Some of them just
they're
snap
deep
right
down
off.
in there. It's a funny truck to work on. You got to climb all over the place. But I really appreciate your show, guys. I've been listening on podcasts for a couple of years, and
thank you.
You've given me a lot of knowledge.
Where are you from?
Southern Maine, Portland, Maine.
We just got a new station up in that area.
Yeah, that's what your call screener said. I don't listen to the radio much because the podcasts are just seamless. They download whenever you want, and I can listen to them whenever I want.
But just thought we'd mention it. Since you said Maine.
AM or FM?
Both. They have AM 1240.
WSYY.
Wonderful city, born and raised, and it's a cool place to live.
Yeah, it sure is a beautiful area around there.
Except for the rust.
Oh, we've got that here too.
Well, and and when we go back to it, just to wrap it up, that with your spark plugs, if you're in that climate, it's going to be that much more important that you have the patience that you need to not have an event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not in the salt on the roads rust is actually not that bad here. I'm near the ocean, so they do a really good job at keeping the salt load down because they don't want it flowing into the ocean. But
Casco Baykeepers would get mad at you.
Exactly, but we have a constant mist of salt air, so
that makes
up for it.
Everything. I mean, not only does it, people don't think about the other things it does. Not only does it eat your car, but it gets sucked into the air intake on any engine and on houses and anything with a ventilator, and it corrodes HVAC systems on houses and on cars, and then it's beautiful to live by the ocean, but wow.
Yeah, I bought a Mercedes from a guy at a beach house when I was a little younger and dumber, and the wind came around his house on one side. But guess what? The driver's side was mint. No rust. Passenger side, I needed to replace both wheel arches within a year of buying the thing.
Wow. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very dramatic.
Oh, no. All right.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate it, Frank. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Oh,
that's fun when we get people from that's to me the funnest part of doing the show is just getting to talk to people from all over the country and just hearing the different regional variances of what can happen. I mean, we'll talk about a problem that's prevalent in our area, and then you get somebody down in the Southwest, and they that never happens, because they don't, with that dry heat, they don't have some of those problems. Then they have different problems. They have their interiors falling apart because all the heat in the cars, and we don't have that problem as much where we're at. So it's just interesting.
If you're away from the ocean too, you don't get that. But when you're near the ocean, like some people that are in Hawaii, I've seen cars that get completely rusted out, and other ones that don't. And you're thinking, why would a car rust out in Hawaii? They don't use any salt on the road. No, it's in the air. And it depends on which side of the islands you're on and which island you're on. And, depending on, how much you get. Some places you get 0, other places you get tons. There's some places where it's rainy constantly and the leaves build up in the drains, and then you get moisture build up behind the fenders, and the fenders rust out. So wherever you live, you can probably find a place to rust your car if you're lucky enough.
Regular car washes, even when it looks clean.
for sure. And keep the leaves off. If you've got leaves in your driveway that are coming down on your vents, and they're not too bad, so we're just going to leave them. They'll eventually go away. Well, a lot of them are probably going away by going down through the vents into the drains. A lot of the new cars have covered those up. They've found ways to keep the leaves out of there, kind of like the leaf filter on your house, on the gutters that they're always trying to sell, buy these. No, they've covered them up with plastic on the cars, and they've moved the vents to other positions so they don't allow that stuff to crawl down in there anymore. Used to be that all cars had a big open vent right at the base of the windshield.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it would pull your air in for your air conditioner, and the water would drain off the windshield. Well, now they just, like I said, big plastic shield there, zero drain at all in there, and the water goes other places. It helps keep the rust out of there. I guess they figure the cars, instead of rusting out, you'll just wear them out with the miles. We had one listener that called us from Texas. He drives the Metro bus, so he couldn't talk to us on the air, but he sent a message into us. He's got a 2008 Accord, and he's down there by south of Austin, Texas, and his AC is blowing hot, cold, switching back and forth a lot on this car, and he wanted an idea what could be going on. Well, we work on a lot of Accords. We've got an 08 Accord in the shop right now, and one of the problems they had on these cars was air conditioning fans. If the pressure switches aren't working properly and the airflow is not moving correctly, then the vehicle cannot cool. So if you lose your fan and you lose that airflow, it's going to run for a second. It's going to get too much pressure, overpressurize, get hot, shut down, and then it'll come back. And especially in Texas, where you're dealing with 100-degree heat, a lot of humidity, that thing it's a must. It has to have airflow. So you got to check that. I would first check, make sure you got airflow. There's no dust and debris between your AC condenser and your radiator, or no dirt on the front of the condenser. The fins aren't bent. If they are, you're going to have to replace that. And then make sure those fans, when the AC is on high and it's blowing inside, make sure those fans should be running on high. In the heat you're in, they should be constantly going. If they're not, something is wrong in that part, and that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, the refrigerant charge, it'll need the proper level, and it may have to be completely evacuated to make sure there's no air in it, and then recharged. It only holds like 1 pound, I think it is, in that car, so it's very low. But if it's got any air in it, that's going to keep it from blowing cold. So I would definitely check the airflow first, and then make sure that refrigerant level is exactly where it's supposed to be. Those are a couple things you can do. Well, Shannon, we made it another day.
We did.
Chris is out. I'm sure he probably heard me as I screwed up a couple times, but not that big a deal. I just wanted to get all the words in. You did it. The listeners wanted to hear us all, so I wanted to keep them rolling. So if you're watching YouTube, you want to see how well producer Doug Mashik there from Prairie House Productions fixes this, go listen to our podcast after you watch the video. Then while you're cruising around your car or working in the yard playing golf, just turn that podcast on and listen and see how he magically fixes all the live show errors.
He has a gift. He has a talent.
He can do it.
He can figure it all out. We're very happy to have him on the staff doing that for us.
Yes, we are. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on the End of the Hood Show.